Oh, dang. Rewind. I keep, bro, everybody. Alright, let's go. What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of G.O.A.T Talk Season 2, Black Ambitionz. I'm your host, Josh Robinson, and today I am with Ayebale Barigye. He's a real good friend of mine. You guys got to check out his own podcast.
I do. Let me plug it in. It is the Good News Podcast, especially for somebody who's looking to explore the faith, right? So it's a faith component to it. But I think it's a little bit unconventional. So what you typically think Christianity is, we kind of unpack it a little bit just because I think a lot of what we believe Christianity to be is the watered down, whitewashed version of Christianity. So I'm trying to shed light to that and hopefully inspire people to start looking at the Bible in a way that's not usually how it's looked at.
And he's also you're a financial director, right?
No, admissions counselor.
Admissions counselor.
So I'm working in the admissions office, and so basically, long story short, my job is to get many students into the university so we can have a university.
Right. So basically, this whole theme of the season is Black Excellence. So we're celebrating every person that's Black that's doing big things out there. I know I said before that we're doing Black entrepreneurs, but now I turned it to Black Excellence because not only Black entrepreneurs are successful, but every Black person that's making it out, like doing something, turning something into nothing, is also a successful person. So, Ayebale, tell us about your background from where your journey began and how you overcame obstacles and stuff in the racial experience.
Racial experience. Okay.
So you got to do both.
Yeah. So I'm not, the reason actually a lot of people, you knew me our entire time knowing each other as Mark, right? Mm-hmm. So part of the reason that I, started going by my middle name, which is Ayebale, which means thank God, in Korea, is because I was born in Uganda, lived there until I was about 7, 8 years old, and we moved to the States. So it was around that time actually that my dad started talking to me about what it meant to be successful in a different way, right? So like when you're in Uganda, everybody's there's Black, there's a different political climate. And so with that being said, like Uganda's not a perfect country. There's no perfect political and economical structure in the world. Otherwise, people would be flocking to that country to learn about how to do things. But when I first came to the United States, that's when my dad started talking to me more about race. And I think about 8 years old, my dad started telling me things like, you got to work 3 times as hard as a white person to be sit at the same table. So just kind of the things that I've been through, the things that I've gone through to get me from point A to point B. And, obviously I wouldn't consider myself like super successful, right? But I was just thinking about it earlier today, how the term of success looks different depending on what you have to overcome, right? So what looks successful to some person might not be successful to others. Anyway, growing up in North Dakota, moved to Chico, California, moved to Australia, back to Chico, California, and then eventually got recruited to play football out here. And that's kind of how we met, right? We came in my sophomore year, played 3 years together, graduated, and now, doing my own thing, looking to be involved with, church locally here. As I mentioned, with the podcast and everything like that, I am a Christian. I am looking to be a pastor. Trying to get ordained in the Free Methodist Church and things like that. But I think if I could say one thing that my life has been about, and I think everybody can probably relate to, is just a struggle. Life isn't easy, and especially after you graduate with a lot of debt and all these things, you start realizing how serious life is. You just graduated, so I'm sure there's times when you go home and it's like at night and it's like,
yeah, like
what am I doing?
For real, because I'm not even where I'm at right now. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Right? I'm working that quick shift and everything else, and people expect to have a 6-figure job right out of college.
It's a process.
It's a huge process.
Patience is a huge component to it, right? Not giving up. In football, we talk a lot about, like, let's say, pounding the rock and eventually seeing the crack. So I think at the stage in life that I'm in, I definitely feel like I'm still pounding the rock, right? It's a metaphor for I'm still fighting until I get to where I want to be. So I'm not where I feel like I want to be or need to be, but like looking at my life now, I feel like every day I beat the odds. I mean, I'm not African American. I don't claim it. I was born in Uganda, as I said before, raised in a different culture, so therefore the struggles that I had, right, didn't grow up in the hood, didn't do certain things, I can't relate to a lot of African American experiences, but the one experience that I can relate to is being black. It doesn't matter whether you're Dominican, it doesn't matter if you're from St. Louis, it doesn't matter if you're from Florida. Being black in this country in and of itself gives you a set of battles that you have to fight and try to overcome. So and I think that's where the term privilege comes in. Is if you're not black, or let's not just say black, if you're not a person of color, right? So even let's say the Latinx community, whether it's Hispanic, Spanish, whatever it is, they have their own set of battles, right? But it seems like the one race that has, I guess, the most clear-cut road to success or road to a good life is, the white race. And so basically all of this to say, I think we can all relate when we start talking about the struggle. I don't think that even if you're rich, everybody has a set of struggles that they're trying to overcome. So it's just a part of life.
So tell us about your racial experiences against white people.
I think that in this, I don't think. Okay.
Yeah, times are crazy right now.
2020 has done nothing but reveal what has already been there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are surprised, and actually, this is the first time that somebody has been killed by the police in all 50 states erupt.
Yeah.
Not only the 50
states, but all over the world.
Right, all over the world. You got New Zealand, Germany, Australia. Like, you got people who aren't even in the system, right? They're not even. They got nothing to do with America, and they're like, "Hey, this is wrong." Like, but I think for me, it's more my experience has been systemic. So I feel like the higher you go, the more covert racism is, right? So like, I don't even know how to
Like,
because I could easily talk about the times that someone called me the N, right? Someone used the hard R, or I could talk about my dad getting treated a certain way when we're out in public, or my parents not getting the respect that they deserve just as human beings. But I feel like the biggest problem that America's facing right now is that when you have systemic racism, right? So when we talk about systemic racism, it's these policies, these laws, these hidden things that people don't look at, right? And so when we bring them up, people like to act like they're a conspiracy, right? Like, oh, come on now, redlining. Like when we talk about how the government created the hood, literally, people think it's like a myth. It's like something that's not necessarily true, could be true, but there's like cold, hard historical facts bringing that up. Now, the reason that I bring up systemic racism is until we start dismantling systemic racism, there's no way that we can beat the explicit racism. Right? So until we dismantle the system that keeps black people in lower income housing, right, which in turn puts them in lower income neighborhoods, and the lower income neighborhoods get worse school funding, right, because the school funding comes from the property taxes.
Right.
And then now you have undereducated people of color, and the literacy rates are way lower than white people and stuff like that. But anyway, all of this to say, like, until we take care of that, like, I feel like the explicit racism is kind of like a distraction. It's like, oh, he called me the N-word. And like, yeah, that should piss anybody off. Or that. I don't know what the. So it should piss anybody off if you see racism, right? If you see that police brutality that somebody's kneeling on someone's neck for 8 minutes when they're not even resisting, and the whole time they're saying they can't breathe, or the way that certain kids are treated. There's so much going on to contribute to these things that the end product, we're trying to stop the end product, but we have to focus on the system that's creating the end product. Right. So the policeman can get away with this, or the school system is still segregated because of this, and we're like, we want you to fix that. But in order to fix that, we have to educate ourselves on how the system is oppressing people of color. Because until then, until you do that, there is truly no power for the people. And the longer that the people don't educate themselves, the longer that the system gets, you know what I mean? Like,
they say that you can't beat a black man unless he puts his nose into a book or something like that.
Yeah, when I was,
that's how you know that knowledge is powerful, because back then when the slaves, when they weren't able to read, they were held against the will, and they were enslaved because their mind is controlled as a slave, and that's how you know they were able to.
It was so bad that if you, as a slave, tried to learn how to read, they were cutting limbs off.
Right.
Like they're like, we're taking your arm. So it's like we're not even gonna kill you. We're gonna make you pay and set you as an example, so that everybody else around you who's maybe thinking of thinking of learning how to read, they're like, no. And I think that's something that my parents instilled in me at a young age. I didn't know, but they were planting a seed, right? And so when I was growing up, it wasn't cool to read. Like it wasn't. Like you were. I mean, it wasn't like people were calling you a nerd or anything, but it's more fun to play 2K. It's more fun to go play basketball, hoop, whatever, all that. Like, it's more fun to do other things than read. But my parents would tell me at a young age, if you want to keep something from a black man, or if you want to keep something from a black person, hide it in a book.
Yep. And
they were saying this sarcastic, because my parents are, they're fairly educated. Let me flex right quick. But between them, they got like 6 degrees. And so they're educated, and so they understand that education and knowledge is power, and in order to attain that power, there's nothing stopping you except you. And so I think that's one of the problems within our youth, or within the young adults, right? And even in high school, forget about the little kids who don't want to read or whatever. Even when we get to high school, we don't want to educate ourselves because it's not always fun, right? Like we don't know how to make education fun. And it wasn't until I got to college and actually started studying the things that interested me that I started really like learning a lot. Started really gaining a type of hunger that's like almost unquenchable. Right? You just can't satisfy that thirst or that hunger to be able to learn. So I'm always reading more books and always trying to educate myself. Not even just because I want the end goal of like being considered smart or powerful or educated or whatever term comes with it, but because I feel that it's truly empowering in order to be able to fight against some systems. And for me, theology is everything, right? Like our understanding of who God is has built this country, right? The white Jesus that everybody praises, that's patriotic and all that stuff, that we don't see in scripture, but people accept that as the norm, and then in turn, that white Jesus is who the KKK worship. You know what I mean? Like, so there's so many things that come out of being able to educate yourself in a certain thing that interests you, that you can always tie back to your identity as a black person. And so until we start doing that truthfully, until we put the guns down, until we put all this stuff, and I think the one genre of music that gets it is rap. Like, they're really educating us. We don't pay attention, but they're really educating us. Like, look at the hottest rappers alive were what you would consider woke, in my opinion, right? Like Pac, Biggie, Jay-Z, Cole, Kendrick. Those are the hottest rappers because a lot of stuff that they say it's actually helping people of color. Anyway, I'm on a soapbox and I'm ranting. You're like, this is good. Right. But rap really takes these experiences, right? Takes these experiences and makes it like more understandable for the youth. Who talks about racism more than rappers? Nobody. Who talks about police brutality more than rappers? Nobody. But when white people hear the guns and shooting, they're like, there's no room for rap. Right. There's no room for rap in Christianity. There's no room for rap in an educated household. There's no room for it's like, yo, rap really does educate a lot of, like, it brings a lot of light to a lot of the problems, because what you have is these people, they come out of their neighborhoods, right? They come out with, they talk about the struggle that they face, first of all, and then number two, it's relatable, right? So for someone who's from Chicago or St. Louis or Compton or Atlanta, when that particular artist, right? Let's say I'm from Atlanta,
Right.
and I'm listening to Lil Baby say something about Atlanta, right? Or let's say I'm listening to 2 Chainz talk about Waffle House. Like, I know what's going on. I'm a part of that culture, and that's the intersectionality in rap, where it's like, it doesn't just take, oh, I'm black, but there's a difference in being Baltimore black. There's a difference in being Chicago black. There's a difference between being black in Atlanta, or being black in Florida, or being black in Texas. It's all different upbringing. So I agree when people say that race it's a construct. Because when they say black, that's the reason people think I'm African American, because I talk like this. But my experience, which is 100% valid, as an African raised in America and having these two cultures that I'm balancing, I'm different from you. Right? We didn't grow up listening to the same music. We didn't grow up eating the same food. We didn't grow up going to the same parks. We didn't grow up going to the same schools. We didn't grow up wearing the same clothes. And it's like, right? But shoot, I don't even remember what we it's like so much that goes into creating a black person in America, and people mess with it, right? Oh my God, people with it, but they mess with it. That's why the black culture creates everything. Black musicians, black artists, black movie stars, black athletes, black everything.
And
everything black.
We've been doing this from the very start.
From the beginning. And like Wale said, sue me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Right. So we create this culture, right? There is no America without black.
Right.
But what you have is everybody wants to be a certain type. And this kind of, all of this goes back to what I was saying about education. I had just yesterday, I went from I lifted at the gym, and I dropped my friend off at his place, and I was driving home, and I saw this kid that I played basketball with, or that was at a basketball tournament that I played at just a few days ago. I stopped and we chopped it up a little bit. He's 9 years old, and he was talking to me about his dreams, like he wants to be an NBA star. For me, athletics is the dopest thing ever, because it's like you learn so much about life. For me, it was football.
Right.
My favorite sport.
We learned a lot.
Right. A lot. Like, it changed my life forever. But he was talking to me about wanting to be in the NBA, and I'm like, yeah, you can do it. Like, I'm never gonna be the type of person to shoot somebody down. He's 9 years old. He's got a dream. That means he has how many years to work on it, right? So if he just keeps working at it, he can get to where he wants to be. But after we played basketball, I was like, why does every black kid want to be a hooper? Let's not just say hooper. Let's say they want to be an athlete or a rapper, and that's how they get out of the situations they're in. But they don't have the aspirations to be doctors like these little white kids.
But I think that's because the system programs them that they should do that. That's the only way out.
That's what I'm saying, right? So you're at a school where you're not getting as much funding. You're not getting the right teachers who can teach you. You're not getting the right equipment. You're not getting, right? These little kids, these little white kids that want to go ahead and be astronauts, or they want to be physicians or whatever, they're in schools where they get an iPad Touch or whatever, and they, that's how they learn.
But I think it's also because it's on the parenting as well, from not helping them.
Well, we see the immediate success, right? So you see somebody like LeBron James who signed a lifetime contract with Nike, and you're like, bro, if I could be like Nike, be like Jordan, be like LeBron, and it's like, I want to be just like that, because he got all the money, he can buy any car he wants, he can buy any house he wants. But here's the trick, bro. When you look at athletes, what is it? 74% of the NFL is black. How many percentage of the NFL owners are black? There's one owner of an NFL team that's the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's Indian. He's not even African American. But so that's what I'm saying by we don't dream big enough as an African American community, as a black community, right? Because we're constricted to be like, this is how you get out of the hood. This is how you get out of the situation that you're in. And so I left that little pickup basketball game being like, man, why can't he dream bigger, right? Like, I'm not knocking anybody who wants to go to the league, but it seems like that's the only thing that we're told we can do. But when you look at it, bro, all the athletes are colored people, but all the owners and coaches who get double, who get triple, quadruple the paycheck, they're white.
Right.
So if we can switch the narrative and start educating ourselves and being like, you know what, I'm about to move different. I'm about to be the first African American, NFL team owner, or I can do this with my life rather than just focusing on either making it out with raps or making it out with athletic ability. I think that's when we'll truly, because it's almost like throwing a dog a bone and keeping it distracted.
Right.
Because if you can say, yeah, focus on hooping. How many people, bro, do we know that are insane athletes but couldn't keep it together in college because they just didn't know how to hold the grades up?
I know a couple.
A lot. There's so many athletes that I thought were going to be they had a chance to go D1 on a scholarship, do something crazy with their athletic talent.
Right.
But because they don't have the ability to keep up the grades, it's like it doesn't work.
And it's also from the guidance too, because I think it's a system that influences them to be like, oh, like this is cool, like shooting and everything else. You go outside, like be part of the game, They think that it's cool and stuff. You feel me? And then in that case, that leads to, ruining your future. Because I know a couple of those guys that messed up their future, and they had a fight one ahead of them, but it all fell down. They got in trouble and stuff.
And there's a long history, I feel, of in the black community where it starts way back. We're fighting an uphill battle, right? So my message to black people is that even though we're fighting an uphill battle, don't stop fighting, right? So like even though we're trying to fight for equality and all this, it's not like we're gonna. There's no guarantee you'll get equality in your lifetime. I don't even think that we'll truly like nationwide there will be equality. It's always gonna be white people who think this, and it's always gonna be anyway. The systems that are put in place that we talked about earlier, they run so deep, right? So like, and let me just take you through, I don't know, kind of like the thought process that I had when I witnessed this thing, right? So you have the Reagan administration that kind of started putting these drugs in these communities. This is not a conspiracy. They actually have people who were Reagan's advisors coming out like in the 90s and stuff like that, right? There's an actual soundbite of one of the Reagan's administrators confessing this. But what you do is you go ahead, and after World War, was it I? Every black person that would move into the white suburbs, then property value would decrease. It's called redlining, and there's a lot of it in St. Louis, like a crazy amount of it in St. Louis. In St. Louis, it's low key because I thought St. Louis was kind of straight. Because you're not like South,
right?
But you're kind of like
borderline.
Yeah. But so redlining is when black people come into communities, the value goes down, so therefore white people leave. And so when they leave, now what you get is you get a neighborhood of homogeneously black, right? So it's like all black or whatever. And then now the government doesn't have to worry about segregating those people because they already kind of segregated themselves by being not on purpose, but it just so happens to be that this is the only affordable housing in the area, right? Now, again, we talk about the school system and educate themselves, and that's the way that the athletics and rap, because it doesn't take it doesn't take a crazy amount of intelligence to be an athlete, right? You just have to be educated in your sport.
Right.
And so I'm not knocking that education, I'm just saying that, you get what I'm saying, it's not book smart. But the people who control the country are book smart. They're not athletes, they're not rappers or whatever, they're not musicians, they are athletes. And we will always have room for them as influencers, but honestly, the people who run the country are book smart. And back to the point. So now you have a system that's creating the hood, and then now there's a three-strike policy. And in three-strike policy, you could do petty crimes, but your third one's going to get you some serious time. Everybody knows that. You're going to get some serious time.
They were talking about the same stuff in the 13th.
And now,
yeah,
100%. I think that documentary definitely shed a lot of light on incarceration in America and the prison system that's been monetized. And it's like it's so messed up that after watching it, you just shut the TV off. You're like,
right.
Where do I even start?
Right.
But so now you got three-strike policy, and there's for everything that I'm saying, there's like a trillion different factors that go into creating somebody who's now criminal. Anyway, point blank period. You have a 3-strike policy, and now because of that, you're creating more fatherless generations. I think it's like over 70% of African American families are one parent, and that's like you guys can fact check me. Go ahead and look it up. I might be a few percent off, but like at the end of the day, look at the percentage versus a white person. Now, if you understand psychology at all, take away the father, right? Take away, and I'm not saying that the father is the only leader of the family, right? Like, but there is an important role that both parents play in bringing up a child. And you take either one of them, whether it's the mom or the dad, they have a much less likelihood of being successful in the terms that white people write. Right. So being educated and not caring about it. So for me personally, the way that I experience this is, my dad happened to leave the country when I was 15, and that changed my life. Like, so I can only imagine growing up, period, without a dad. The lack of direction, right? Because like listening to my mom was a lot harder. She's not as stern as my dad, so I was getting into quite a bit of trouble. But so now you have fatherless generations, and now it's creating a cycle that takes care of itself. And now we don't even need white people to kill us because we're killing ourselves. You hear dudes from, I'll never forget this conversation. I had a friend who was, I think, from Baltimore, and a friend from East St. Louis, and it was my freshman year at Greenville. And they were arguing about which city's more dangerous. And I understand why they were arguing about which city's more dangerous, because it's like, listen, my odds of making it out were 1 in 25, your odds are 1 in 10, therefore my odds are much more, impressive. But what we're arguing about and we're proud of is that it's Negroes killing Negroes, right, and it's Negroes killing Negroes. There is nothing dope about that. Right. There is nothing dope about that, because now the white person doesn't have to pull the trigger. We take care of ourselves. We start killing each other. And so when I see these white people who say all lives matter, and I'm angry at them, and I say Black Lives Matter, and they say, well, where's the rage when a black person kills a black person? They don't know. That enrages me, bro. Like, Chicago at one point had a higher murder rate than Afghanistan, which was a time in which we were actively at war with Afghanistan. Like, you know what I mean? So, so we are a product of a system that is oppressive to us, and it's almost like it's our job to break that system. It's almost like you have to beat the odds. And so for me, what defines success is that I'm not incarcerated. For me, it's that I got married, and I plan on raising a family in which I will be present for my son or daughter their entire life, and be able to teach them that the way that you live can impact a lot of people, and hopefully set a standard, and hopefully set a path that they can follow, their friends can follow, and eventually you can have black people empowering black people, so on and so forth, and maybe that can set off a chain reaction. To me, that's what success is. I don't need $1 million in the bank. I don't need a chain. I don't need a Rolls Royce. I don't need none of that. What I need is for my children to be able to create a life of their own, and pass that generational knowledge, that generational wealth starts to happen. I'm cool with I ain't cool with living paycheck to paycheck, right, but I'm cool with struggling so that the rest of my family doesn't have to. So to me, we're fighting a battle, bro, that has been going on since 1619, and it will keep going on afterward. But I think what's important is what you do in your time here. Pick up a book, start learning about your history, start learning about the systems that you're fighting against. Because if you don't know the system, you can't beat it. And you're lost. You pick up that 9 and you think you're hard, and you think, you put a lot of fear in others, but you're gonna live your whole life behind bars, and it's not gonna be cool. You've done nothing. You've done nothing to help your family. You've done nothing to get. It's a lot of. Now I've been talking I've been talking the whole time you talk, man.
It's all good. Okay, take it back to the guns. I know that on social media, T.I. and 50 Cent, they showed a video, some type of Black Panther movement or whatever, and I think it was like New Orleans, Louisiana, or something like that. And they were also talking about the reason why they were carrying guns and stuff is for protection. And I said, don't be video. And they were also talking about the right to bear arms. Like, do you think that involves with education as well, and for black people to defend ourselves against police or any other racist white person?
Listen, man, I actually think that the only way that gun laws are going to change is if black people start buying guns legally, start legally owning guns. But I think that since it's your second, first of all, let me not trap myself, but what you have is a country that prides itself on nationalism and patriotism, and white people love to own guns. And you see that it's white people who are shooting up all these schools and that gun laws still aren't changed. I think that if you are a responsible gun owner, this is the thing where you just can't, like, I don't believe that taking away guns is necessarily like the answer, because I believe that the answer to the problems that are going on is the person with the gun. Right? So we have to look at the fact that like over 99, I think it's over 99% of all mass shootings in the last decade have been male. Right. Women have the same right to own guns, but they're not shooting. Why? I think that there's a masculinity and mental health problems, psychological reason that these things are going on. And like, I don't want to hear about another mass shooting. Like, to be honest, I don't think anybody does. Because nobody wants to send their kid to school and not know that it's going to be their last day. But I think that with gun laws, white people are owning guns. Black people gotta own guns. Right? And if anybody got a problem with me saying that, though, white people aren't gonna stop owning guns. All they gotta do is pull up that little amendment list, right, and read not one but number 2. That number 2 is gonna give them the right to have a gun. And if you're black, own it legally. Right. Own it legally. That's the only way that we can start. I mean, like, it's not like we're going back and forth shooting. Like I'm not advocating for that. Yeah. But I'm saying that you gotta own it legally, right? Straight up. And I think the problem with like all the mass shootings and all that stuff is, again, it's up here. We live in we're messed up.
For real.
It's a messed up society.
But I think we covered up all the points for this podcast. So the main thing that we have to focus on as a black community in America is to educate ourselves and to make sure we know our rights and to read a book at least, learn our history. And also, we got to keep the peace as well, because like in St. Louis, we just had 6 4 shootings on the 4th of July. It's like we can't start making change or fighting for unless we make peace amongst ourselves as well. And it all starts at home too.
And I think also if you're somebody who is on one side of the spectrum politically, right, and you start talking to other people, like trying to explain Black Lives Matter, you get tired. It's like, why do I have to explain it? Right. Why do I have to explain to you that police brutality is actually a thing without you pulling up certain statistics that say otherwise and stuff like that? But I think that my biggest word of advice is we got to learn how to communicate in a way where we don't get out of character. As soon as somebody gets you out of character, right, they get you wild and they get you like your emotions come up, right? You start arguing emotionally and you can't separate your anger from them. I think you completely lose you. So like, as on top of really starting to educate yourself on the systems that you're dealing with, the history that you have, and the power that you have politically with your vote, I think you also have to learn how to argue or disagree in a way where we can progressively move forward. Sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it if you're talking to somebody. So that's another like kind of quick little thing that I would say for, especially for the young adults who are liberal. You talk to a conservative person, boy, they can get you worked up. But again, you're fighting uphill battle. We're fighting what? If you're black, you're fighting uphill battle. If you don't think you're fighting uphill battle, I don't know what else to tell you. Just walk out the door and look at the world, bro.
All right, what's the next move for you? Because I know you said you were trying to become a pastor as well.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get on staff at St. Paul's. That's a church here in Greenville. And mainly what I'm looking forward to is being able to do ministry and impact individuals basically what I'm looking forward to is being able to try and impact the community. I feel like my identity and the kind of skill set that I bring might be able to speak to colored people more in the community that's pretty much right. And so I think when George Floyd, first of all, when he got killed, the main thing was like, how can I make this time different than last time? Because I said the same thing about Sandra Bland when I asked you what can I do to make the world a better place? Right. So for me, I'm trying to occupy every space of influence that I can and begin talking to people of color and being like, hey, I know you were born in this situation. I know you see how messed up the world is, but you have the power to be able to fight the system. You have the power to be able to fight whatever it is that you're fighting, right? And I believe that God plays a huge role in it. So for me, I'm looking forward to being a part of the church and how we empower other people to do it.
Thank you for your time, Ayebale.
Yes, sir.
All right. Tell me social media.
At pray for, so it's at pray, the number 4, Ayebale. That's Instagram, Twitter, that's everything.
All right. Tune in to the next episode of the G.O.A.T Talk on Black Ambitionz. And if you guys have anybody else that I can interview, let me know. Hit me up on LilJohn's_ on Instagram and at capital C, capital O, capital R, capital N, number 3, capital L, _.
You got a mouthful.
All right. Y'all be blessed.